What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the 5th episode of Music in the Minor League, our first little landmark episode we have, man. Kind of fired up about that. Today we're talking with Scotti Fraser, who does solo shows and also fronts the Scotti Fraser Band. Scotti spent a great deal of his life serving in the Marine Corps, and now he uses his music to heal from the scars of serving during wartime, and also uses it to connect with people dealing with their battles in life, whether it be military related or just living in this world, as he says in the interview, living in this broken world with your broken heart. Before we start, we have a few housekeeping items to get out of the way, as always. First off, if you like what you hear, please subscribe to the podcast and tell your friends about it. It still remains the best way for us to grow our audience. Second, if you hear a band we're talking about, you hear their name, go find them online, follow them. It's really important. It helps people find new venues to play. The more the numbers are up, the better. So please go do that. Third, if you're interested in appearing on the podcast, hit us up. Let us know. We'd love to talk to you. Finally, if you want to see our band Brightwire live, you got a few chances coming up. We'll be over at Shoeshine Charlie's Big Top on February 17th with Grifters and Shills and Junebird. Should be a great one. March 11th, we'll be in Webster at Union Tavern with Matt Woods, Sean Holcomb, and Grifters and Shills. On March 17th, we're doing one of the So Far Sound shows, so who knows where it will be. It will be in the Garden Oaks area. It's the only thing they're telling you. But you can find tickets off our website or look it up through sofarsounds.com. On March 25th, we'll be out at Fredonia Brewing in Nacogdoches. First time Brightwire will have played Nacogdoches. Kind of cool, man. We're looking forward to it. That's enough of selling us. Let's get to the discussion with Scotti, man. It's a real good one. As always, we're going to kick it off with one of Scotti's songs. This one's called Bullet for My Time.
I'm just killing time, waiting for attack, waiting for that old blood moon to rise. You better watch your back. You better watch your back, 'cause it's gonna be a fight tonight, I know, and a bullet for my time, 'cause it's gonna be a fight tonight, I know, and a bullet for my time. And in the evening breeze, the city's all on fire. Can you spare a cigarette and a prayer for my life? A prayer for my life, 'cause it's gonna be a fight tonight, I know, and a bullet for my time, 'cause it's gonna be a fight tonight, I know, and a bullet for my time. And if God is numbered all my days, I will not be afraid. And if a bullet has my name, combat zone. We're rolling on patrol, but if I find my way back to Texas, brother, I'd be home. Now, brother, I'd be home. 'Cause there's gonna be a fight tonight, I know, and a bullet for my time. 'Cause there's gonna be a fight tonight, I know, and a bullet for my time. And a bullet for my time. And a bullet for my time.
All right, man. Welcome to the new episode. We're here with our good friend, Mr. Scotti Fraser, who's a great singer, songwriter, band leader. Like, he does it all, man. It can be quiet. It can be really loud.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. Great to be here. Great to be here with you guys.
Good to see you.
It's an honor, an absolute honor. Thank you.
Well, man, thank you for coming. I guess to kick it off, man, like I say, we know you play music now. We know we'll get into more of the after you came back from your service overseas and whatnot. But when you were younger, did you start playing music before that?
Yeah, music for me came at a pretty young age. So I remember my dad would take me, I grew up in the greater San Francisco area, California, and lived in the suburbs out there. My dad would take me into the big city to see my bigger half-brother, who was a musician.
Oh, cool.
And every time I would leave his house, he would give me some kind of Elvis swag. He was a big Elvis guy.
Nice.
So ever since I was a really young kid, I had my walls covered with Elvis posters and stuff. And that kind of really intrigued me into music, rock and roll specifically, but music. And I eventually ended up getting my first instruments, by my own accord.
What was your first instrument?
So my first instrument was a guitar from Sears and Roebuck.
Nice. Acoustic?
It was an electric guitar.
Okay.
What happened was I ordered it from the hard copy catalog.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, the fancy catalog.
My parents weren't super big supporters of this, interest in loud rock and roll. So I saved up my lunch money for quite a few months, went hungry during the school days, saved up my money, ordered it through the catalog, got a letter in the mail that it came in, and then I took 3 buses across 3 different cities to go pick it up in a cardboard box from the Sears and Roebuck customer service center, and got back home. It was an all-day venture and got my first guitar.
That's dedication right there.
That's
3
awesome.
buses.
Yeah. Of all the people, man, so far, it's been like, of all the people I've met in life, like, that's probably the best story I've heard. Like,
Right.
a whole, like,
Yeah.
rode it across town. Like, it's happening. This is going
There was
down.
just something inside me that just knew. From the first time I heard music, and whether it was rock and roll or country or jazz, there's just something about it. And I think a lot of us musicians probably have that in us from a very young age, but I just knew there was something about the guitar and singing and performing that I just wanted to do from a very young age.
So how long did it take you to learn to play that Sears and Roebuck guitar?
Well, to master it, I'm still working on mastering that
Right.
Sears and Roebuck guitar decades later. But my mom had an old stereo that was like, it had a pull-out kind of piece and had a phonograph on the top with the 78 to 33 speed.
Oh, yeah.
And an 8-track player and an old thing. And I found a way to get some wires from Radio Shack.
Oh man, Radio Shack. That
Hot
was
wire the guitar into mom's old phonograph player.
No kidding. So you built yourself an amp.
And
That's amazing.
I'm just excited to say that Smoke on the Water from Deep Purple came out pretty quick, pretty instantly.
There it is.
I think that's a pretty common story.
Probably.
Yeah, but it's always good. You had that kind of run where Elvis came out. A lot of people from that age group were like, dude, yes. And then the Beatles came along and they weren't doing all the jazzy chords or anything. They were pretty standard chords. And then when it really came was like when the Ramones hit. And it was like,
Absolutely.
like, dude, I can play any of these songs within minutes.
Right.
I'm a guitar god now.
And, but you had those riffs that were great, like Smoke on the Water, where it was like, okay, dude, I got that. Then when they start getting in all the crazy stuff, you're like, ooh, with that, I was like, all right, I got this.
Right, but it was just those simple, like you mentioned, the Ramones, that kind of taught a lot of us, especially me, like, I can do this. Like, maybe I can do this. And Ramones were a very early inspiration of mine. And it was really exciting that years later, as I grew into my 20s, I got to be in a band that opened up for the Ramones.
Nice.
Got to share
wow.
the stage with those guys. So very cool.
So
That
how long,
is cool, man.
I guess how long have you been performing then?
The first time I hit to a proper stage was at one of the old punk rock clubs on Broadway in San Francisco. I must have been 15.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So you're comfortable on the stage. You've been there a long time.
I love performing, and I love to tell a story, and I like to, be on stage and to entertain. And, there's just something about doing what makes me happy and then seeing people in the crowd smile and happy and dancing and enjoying. Mm-hmm. Just kind of spreading that positivity. Maybe it's more about that than being showy,
Maybe.
Yeah.
I would hope to think.
It is. It's a good way to connect with people, man. Kind of, there's no, you don't know anything about each other. You just know you played this song. These people liked it. They enjoyed it. You have these great connections with people with nothing kind of hanging over.
And with music, you have an instant language that we all speak.
Yeah.
Whether you're a musician or a singer or not, we all are moved by music.
Yeah.
So we have that instant connection.
Right.
Yeah, goes across all. I mean, that's why people, tour around the world, even if it's not things that speak that language. It's like they know, like, I like that music.
Right.
It makes me feel that
Well,
way.
that's like growing up in the 80s, like you would see the concert videos of like Michael Jackson, and he'd be in like Romania, and every kid in the crowd is like singing everything. And you're
Right.
like, but the kid doesn't even know English. They're just like,
Right.
but I know these words.
Right.
And
Right. It's
that's
uniting.
Yeah, it is. It's like immediately we have something in common and we are connected.
Right.
It's a great feeling.
Yeah. Awesome.
But I will say I feel that whenever I see someone, live that I like. And I felt that when I saw you play live the first time.
I appreciate that very
I
much.
thought it
Thank
was
you.
like you could tell that you were comfortable up there, and I really enjoyed your ability to storytell. Plus, you rock.
Well, thank you so
Can
much.
confirm.
So,
And Kim was also kind of like, I know afterwards, like, yeah, I don't know, man. Like, he seems pretty sure of himself. And
I kind of thought you were a jerk a little bit. Like, I was like, maybe he's just really stuck up. But then I
I've
realized
been hanging
it
out with
wasn't
my
that.
wife too much.
I think it was-
I,
She might
have
I
sent
always
some
have
notes
that
in.
fear.
I think it's just that when you're still, because Kim's I been doing this, especially
I
performing
haven't,
live
yeah.
for a long time. So I think a lot of it's that whole, and you exude like a confidence. So it's always like, he knows what he's doing. Like, to feel that sure of yourself on stage, you must be a jerk. It's like, he must be full of himself. And then you meet you and you're the most like, hey, what's up, dude?
Yeah.
Well, the
Thanks for coming.
the truth be told, I do have a lot of insecurities
Don't
and
we all?
and a lot of times where I like my home life. I like to be generally pretty quiet around the house. So I kind of put on a little bit of a persona maybe when I get in front of the microphone and when I get on stage and, try and become the entertainer. So I like to say when I was a kid, I always was a ham and I didn't want to be just a ham. I wanted to be the whole pig.
Yeah.
So I wanted to be the Barnum and Bailey circus ringleader. So
Yeah.
But again, to go back to that, it wasn't like one of those things where it's like, oh, this guy. It was just kind of that whole like, man, this dude knows what's going on.
He's got to be a jerk. That was really my original
He's so
thought.
confident.
Yeah.
Well-
but I think that about everyone.
fooled ya.
Like I
fooled
said,
ya.
I haven't done this, like Sam said, I haven't done this that long. And so I'm not as sure about the music community as he is. But I literally I think I've maybe met one person in the last 8 years that was just a complete jerk. Everyone else is just, it seems like in the music scene, at least, we all we have that all in common.
we have
and
that common bond.
there's that giving kind of thing that goes around the music community where we all try to help each other out.
Right.
And because somebody helped me in the beginning, like I didn't do this by myself. And
Well, the people you see on the
Yeah.
way up, you're going to see on the way down. So you got to be good to people.
That's
And I
right.
try and
I
live by
agree.
that, try and be
Yeah.
good to people.
that is true because you're not going to be up at the top forever. I don't want to get anywhere near the top. I'm too heavy for that.
But, to be kind of a pain here, because you're talking about when you're 15, so relatively, like, I don't know I don't even know what your age is. You're kind of like ageless
Post
at this
40.
point.
Pretty timeless.
Post 40. I got bitten by a vampire back in World War One.
Oh, okay.
We're all post 40. Yeah.
My original name was Lestat.
Well, I was thinking with the 15 San Francisco clubs, like, was that back in Ramones and stuff? I mean,
80s, 90s?
Yeah. So I'm a child that came out of the 80s, and
Okay.
So I mean, like Gilman Street, places like that.
absolutely. So I grew up playing in my first punk rock band alongside bands like Operation Ivy and Rancid and Green Day and bands like that. We all played the Gilman Street.
Yeah.
So 6 degrees of separation, we all kind of crossed
Yeah.
paths. But that was the beginning. That was absolutely the beginning. And I remember even at that age, kind of just wanting more. You know, maybe that confidence thing, or false bravado or whatever it was coming in at that time. And I wanted more, and I wanted to travel. I just thought it would be so cool to tour.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we would, back in the punk rock days, and maybe we're still doing it now, you kind of DIY. You do it yourself and book your own.
Oh, yeah.
So I would get phone numbers, and I would just kind of cold call these clubs a day's drive away, whether we're going to LA or San Diego or all the way up to Canada. And I would book these little mini tours, and we'd go, when I was 16, got a van, we'd go in the van and, play the Northwest, Seattle and Portland quite a bit.
Yeah.
Got to play this Club Satyricon in Portland many times. And that's where Nirvana got their start, when they were in Portland. They're from Seattle, but when they would play Portland. So, it was a very, very dirty little, divey little club, but just to be able to have stepped on that stage is pretty cool.
Well, it's always kind of fun to remember that, all these bands started out, because like we saw the thing the other day where like Nirvana's recording a video at like a Radio Shack and stuff. Like a friend of theirs, I guess, was a manager, and it's like reading Mark Lanigan's book about seeing them at the local library. Like the library let them play music, had music ever so often in like their atrium.
Right.
And it was like Nirvana's Tonight's band playing the atrium of the library.
Well, and it makes you wonder, like, if from like the In Bloom video concept, when that guy is like Nirvana, like if that actually happened at like some, what I mean, like the Wonders, the O-Neaters.
Of course, it would have had to have happened.
It has to. That's right. I think that's where it came from. It's got to be.
But yeah, that's like so like you had the, as far as most story, like the prototypical California musician life there for a while, like
Bounce between
High-five.
San Francisco and LA and and all that. So we loved it. We loved it. It was such a ripe environment back then there for music. It was just, there was so much going on, and we saw all the bands that came through, and all the world touring acts would come through San Francisco and LA.
Oh yeah.
So you had a chance to, to see everybody and meet people.
Yeah, and even like independent labels coming out of there. I mean, you had all the LA ones like Epitaph. You had Outlook in San Francisco. You had, oh my God, what's the big Seattle one blanking out?
This is your moment. Where you at?
I know. What's this?
Come on.
Sub Pop. Jesus.
Yeah, Sub Pop, right.
I couldn't remember Sub Pop. It's like, oh, it's the one. So, it was, that coast always just had like a lot of stuff going on. A lot of people who were doing it. I think there were a lot of people who just got active and made it happen.
Right.
I guess we had stuff here in Texas around that time. Actually, we did. We had a ton of stuff going on. We had local record labels and whatnot. And we had like Fuzz.
We did, but didn't it always felt like you had to get out of Texas and either go East Coast, West Coast? Like it always felt like there's like this,
like New York or LA.
Yeah, it was like I had to get to New York,
right.
I had to get to LA, and and it's so weird because you feel like you're so. And I knew bands that moved out to New York and moved out to LA, and they were no more successful than we were here in Texas in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
Because my whole thought process is it's like moving to Austin. You're now a dime a dozen. There's hundreds of bands all trying to play shows at the same venues. So at least, if you're a little further away,
right,
you had a better shot of maybe finding something.
Well, I think it was a little more, especially when you got into the whole smaller DIY world. There was a lot more stuff could happen in the Midwest because no one was big.
Yeah.
Even at their biggest, like Black Flag, I'm listening to the
Black Flag or someone like that, or
podcast. Like they're still in a van starving to death.
Right.
And if you're the local band who tours around the Midwest from Austin, like if you're like the Dicks or Big Boys or something, you're like, dude, in a van starving to death, just like Black Flag.
I'm living the life.
Right. I remember being at one of those clubs on Broadway in San Francisco, and I believe, I don't remember who was playing. I believe it was Danzig. So a band that I was in was opening up for Danzig when Glenn Danzig started doing his solo thing. Mm-hmm. And I'm outside the club trying to bang on the door to bring my gear in. And I'm with this long hair guy, and we're just talking, having a good conversation. And it turns out it's Chuck Biscuits from Black Flag.
Oh, wow.
Who played with Danzig and was just like a regular nice guy. So,
yeah.
But just what you're saying, in that scene, you crossed paths so many times with so many people.
Oh yeah, even now. So enough about that. So you hit something where I'm always interested in, like, ooh, I had all those records from that area and that
Right.
growing up. Like, that's where I was at. So I guess to move in next, from your playing bands of that, and then you decided to join the military.
Was that because you weren't really wanted to travel? You thought it would be a good way to do it?
Was this far late? I mean, I don't know if you joined at like 18 or if you waited till later in life.
I was a little older when I joined. I was 23.
Okay.
So most guys usually join the military, I guess, or guys or gals when they're 18, unless you go the officer route and you go to college first, which I did not. But I just knew from a very young age that I wanted to play music. Mm-hmm. And there was this dichotomy in my soul that I knew I wanted to play music or specifically be a Marine, be in the military. Mm-hmm. So two kind of very extreme kind of occupations. Yeah. And yeah, I knew I wanted to be in the military from a very young age. And when things started getting a little dark in the music scene in San Francisco and LA, and people started kind of dying, and the drugs got really, really prevalent and all that kind of thing. And I started noticing other band members and friends with the addiction problems and the drugs and all that. I just figured it was time for me to get out.
Okay.
It was time for me to get out. And like I said, I'd always, ever since I was a kid, just something about being a Marine. So I said, well, I'm going to go for the next big challenge, and I'm going to go for this.
Yeah.
So off to the recruiter it was.
Yeah. Wow.
I had a good friend of mine, one of my best friends growing up went to the Marines. So it's like, it's an undertaking, man.
It is. It's a big commitment, Anyone who joins the military, it's a big commitment.
But I feel like, not to be like it's way more intense, but before the drugs part, I feel like music would be because you have to be very disciplined. You have to do things a million times to get them right. And you have to be driven. You said, like booking shows, doing out there, doing it, making things happen, hit the road. We're not going to eat. We're not going to eat. We're still doing this. And then you kind of kick that up times 10.
Yeah, maybe that. Maybe you've hit on something there that I didn't think about before, that maybe that type of running a band and being the leader of a band, in the rock and roll and the punk rock days, whatever, maybe that did kind of prepare me for getting into the military and going into leading people, working with groups of people and that kind of thing. So.
And having that drive, because, you do that on your own. There's not I'm just doing this because I'm going to be famous. It's like, I'm doing this because this is what I'm going to do.
Right. And even with that, like, just like with music, like the Marine Corps, they weren't, begging us to stick around and begging us to stay. Like they were all the way since boot camp, they were very clear. Like, if you don't want to be here, walk out that front door and get lost or go wherever you're going to go. Mm-hmm. If you want to be here and you want to serve and you want to be in the mud, and you want to be in the barbed wire, and you want to go hungry and work hard and all of that, then you're the kind of person that we want.
Well,
so you had to be motivated.
Yeah, that sounds exactly like being in a band.
It is a lot like being in a
barbed wire.
A band of brothers, if you will.
Yes,
but yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely.
Just a footnote here. We do not think our band is on the same level as the Marines.
We're saying there's similarities.
There are some striking similarities.
But it's the difference between running to the end of the block and running a marathon.
Exactly.
Right.
They both are physical.
But they are both running, and they are both people-oriented. So it's got to be motivated. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So how long were you in the Marines?
I was in the Marines for a little over 10 years.
Wow.
For a decade.
Wow.
So loved it every minute.
Yeah, that's a long time to serve.
It's a long time. Yeah.
Especially when you don't have, like, they're like, here's your 4, you're done, buddy. And you're like, oh, you know what? I'm having fun.
And now after, so I was in the infantry, so those kind of frontline guys that kind of, carry the big pack and kick in the doors and all that kind of stuff. And, the Marines don't give a gold watch for a retirement package. So they give bad knees and back arthritis. And so now I'm doing some of my acoustic gigs, and they're like, well, we need you to play 3 hours. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know if my knees can put up with 3 hours of standing and playing. So
yeah, we need to get you a drum throne.
Scotty comes walking in with like one of those anti-shock mats.
Right.
Like, what is that? I got bad knees, bro.
Or a 4-point walker with the tennis balls on it and strap the guitar on it.
Always one of my favorites. My friend who was in the Marines talking about, he hurt his leg, and he's like, oh, cool, man. He's like probably a month into basic training. It's like, I get a break. I'm injured. And I'm like, all right, here's your exercise bike. You can use one leg and your arms while this leg's
Can you do
resting.
push-ups with your arm? Yeah, okay. Well, we got something for you to do.
That leg can rest. The rest of you is going to work. And it was like, oh, man. I remember coming back like, yeah, dude, I thought I got a break.
That sounds exhausting.
It was a tiring 10 years. I remember being cold a lot, hungry a lot, tired a lot, but just, never so rewarded, very rewarding. So,
you have to make connections that you'll have, for the rest of like literally finding family, like brothers that.
Absolutely. I'm still in contact with a lot of guys that I served with in the Middle East and served within my units. And, we're still very, very close. Like family. So absolutely.
Yeah. So we play with you at Dan Electros. One of your buds came in and I was like, wow, that's cool. It's, that's awesome. You're never alone. Like you probably know someone everywhere you go.
Yeah. You've got that kind of family thing, with the military thing. So, and I'm very fortunate that I have lots of Marines that I served with and other military branch buddies that are, guys and gals that are supportive of the music mission that I do and, supportive of what I do. And that's, it's great to be part of that community. It's an absolute honor, so.
Yeah.
So when you were active duty, did you still do music? Like, did you have a guitar with you at any time or was it, did it go by the wayside while you were?
I always tried to find a way to find a guitar. Sometimes they would, find me and sometimes I would find them. I remember being at Guantanamo Bay, being at Gitmo, and we were on a weekend off. So we would get one weekend off every couple weeks, and we could go down to this bar area where they had a stage and they would have a band play. And we kind of commandeered the band's gear and we took over. And I was on guitar and we had like a 7-person band with a rapper and everything.
Nice.
And we did Knockin' on Heaven's Door, not super sober, for about 30 minutes.
Heck yes.
The Marines took over, so I performed internationally.
There you go.
Amazing.
See? Right. Check it off the list.
Yeah, that was very, very cool. Okay. And one time a guitar found me, if I can share that
Yeah, totally.
story. So I had just gotten out of, my unit had just pulled out of Iraq. So we were on the front line for quite a few months, and we just pulled back to Kuwait, which was kind of the rear area where things were, more safe and you can get a little rest. And I remember being really drained, depressed, really just wiped out just from the hardship of being on the front line. And I guess I'm just having a cigarette outside of one of the big troop tents and watching the sun go down over the desert and, sand's blowing in. There's always kind of a mild sandstorm going. And I see someone walking off in the distance towards our encampment, just from way out in the desert. And I kind of rub my eyes and it is someone walking towards us. So I kind of, grab my rifle and I'm going to be ready just in case, because there's bad guys that are trying to get into our camp and do, bad things. And I can hear a little music on the wind. And as the guy gets closer, it is a Marine, and he's in his uniform with his rifle slung across his back, and he's got an acoustic guitar. And I know the song, and he's playing With or Without You from U2.
Yeah.
He's playing it over and over again. And it was almost ethereal, almost like a dream state, because I've always loved guitar and music has always healed me. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like, right then the heavens knew that I needed some kind of healing. And the Marine walks straight up to me, takes off the guitar, and hands it to me and goes, "Bro, you play?" And it was just like out of a dream. So I grabbed the guitar and kind of strummed a little bit and sang a little bit, and we talked a little bit, and I felt a lot better. I felt kind of healed in that moment.
Yeah.
I handed him the guitar back. He strapped it back on, and he went back into With or Without You from U2, and he walked off in the desert, and I never saw him again.
Wow.
No kidding.
So,
wow.
At my next show, I'm going to do With or Without You acoustic.
I was going to say, I feel like you got to write a song about that. That is an amazing experience.
Right. Maybe I should write a song about that. Yeah.
I think you should. That's amazing, man.
That's killer.
But that's like, the universe has a plan,
Right.
Like it puts you where you're supposed to be and paths cross. It wasn't a happenstance. There was a reason for that. And you needed it. And I think that's awesome, man.
Right.
So you're in, active duty. You come home. What do you do? Like, you come home and do you jump back into music, or is it like start a family time?
When I came back home, I was a very, very different person than the guy sitting in front of you right now. I was very, very broken and emotionally drained and emotionally broken. So I took a lot of time to kind of heal and find myself again, find my voice, and work on those depression issues and things like that. Over time, I started going back to music and grabbing the guitar, grabbing a pen and paper, and putting those thoughts and those feelings into songs. I mean, it was just pretty simple. It just took me a few years to get to the point where I could really, touch the guitar. Guitar has always been such a beautiful, beautiful thing to me. And it's hard for me to play when I'm like depressed or sad or angry. But it is a very, very healing thing. So exactly, it took some time, but I started writing about my stories. And the album that I'm finishing right now in the studio, a lot of those songs came about 3 o'clock in the morning after a nightmare about the war. I suffer from these nightmares. And, in the early hours of the morning, I have a nightmare, and then I'll go into my home studio while my kids are sleeping, and I'll start trying to, put together these thoughts and make something positive out of, the trauma of all this. And that's how these 10 songs came about,
It's pretty awesome, man. Like, seriously, just taking, obviously there's some, like you said, trauma, and just trying to harness it, man, trying to be in control of it. That's cool,
Right.
man. I think, and again, it goes back to that whole idea of, music has a healing power. It really does.
Right.
And I think if maybe more people got into music, maybe a lot of the problems would go away. I'm not sure.
Might be a nicer
Right.
planet.
I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
maybe
Absolutely.
it couldn't hurt.
Yeah, music has done more to heal me from the PTSD stuff, from the trauma, from the emotional trauma and the nightmares than really anything else. So I got to a point with the medications that the VA gave me, and I just put them aside. I'm going to focus more on music, heal myself that way.
You feel like the stories, like getting the stories out of your head and onto paper, like, do you feel like that was it, or was it?
I think so very much. I think you really hit the nail on the head. For me, these songs, until they're completed, they kind of haunt me. I don't know if you get that when you're writing, you keep repeating that chorus over and over in your head. And like,
oh, yeah.
I need that tagline. I need that transition line. I need the third verse. And they kind of haunt me until I get them done. But it's kind of like I can digest those experiences when that song about those experiences, or when I hear it played back in MP3 format, or, when I hear it played back, can digest it and put that chapter away and move on to the next chapter and healing the next thing.
I don't think a therapist could do it any better.
Well, a lot of it, that's what therapy is. You go in and you talk over a lot of times the same thing. And, there's a lot of people talk about that, like working through trauma via the songs.
Immersion therapy, they call it. Yeah, right.
And then things even, years later, they'll suddenly be like, oh, okay, that's how I dealt with this. So there's things that come back, you only realize, like, subconsciously you're entering into songs and whatnot. Then later it's just like things will click.
Right.
So it's a good way to get out. It's also a good way. So my big thing with music, because I grew up, like I said, down at the beach, no one around. You kind of felt lonely at points because there was only like so many people. And
I can feel that in your music.
Yeah.
I can feel your emotions, both of y'all's emotions in your music. And I've seen you play numerous times, and I can feel those feelings.
Yeah. So for me, a big deal was always trying to, and I'm bad saying for you, just to put that out there so people who had similar experiences, that you're not alone.
Right.
This is it. these things happen, that you feel this way, and,
right.
You're not weird for feeling this way. It's not an oddity. It's normal after having experienced X, Y, Z.
Right.
So
whatever that
for
is.
you, we've been at shows, you have fellow Marines there, fellow military. You always ask, and he will say, so it has to be something that a great service to be able to show them, like, I'm here, I'm doing this, and you're not alone. Like, I feel the same way.
Well, I definitely hope that my music is bigger than me myself. Along the path of this, I'm being healed, but my mission is really to help other veterans.
Right.
And really people that have experienced hardship and suffering. But, I've been told recently that somebody found hope in some of my lyrics. And that's really why I do what I do. Mm-hmm. I'm trying, music can be about, sometimes about look at me and the show and all, but I really want to tell the story of the guys I served with. I want this to be for all of us. And I hope that other people, whether they served in the military or not, that have gone through some kind of hardship and brokenheartedness, I hope they can find some hope in my music and go, hey, that song gives me hope to go through another day, or to be positive, and that kind of thing.
It's always like in your banter stuff, you're always really inclusive of everybody. This doesn't just have to be someone who went through,
right?
What I did in combat. It's like this also, we all go through.
Right.
these rough things. I remember it was funny because we were listening to Jeff Tweedy's autobiography. He was talking about going to rehab, and he's like sitting there, and he's like, he were talking about all these terrible things. And he's like, well, I was in a band and my feelings, and I started taking pain pills, and it doesn't really matter. And he said one of the guys there who was probably had like the hardest life grabbed him, was like, your pain's your pain.
Right.
You shut up. Like, it's your pain's your pain. You tell your story just like us. And it may, it doesn't matter what you think. It's like your pain's your pain, and that made you feel bad. And that's why you're here.
Well, you touched on something that's really important to me. And it's like, I want to be inclusive where with my music, and especially at my live shows, that people feel that sense of community. So no one feels alone. We're all suffering something.
Yeah.
Every person you meet is fighting a battle that you may not know anything about. We all are. We live in a broken world, and and we all have our broken hearts. And I don't want people to feel alone. I want people to feel like someone else kind of gets it. For me, it was war. For you, it may be something else. For you, it may be something else. But we all have that uniting thing and that love of music. And I hope there's camaraderie at my shows, at my live events. And, I hope that people feel a little bit more whole or a little bit more healed when they walk out the door at the end of the show. So I want it to be more about just me, myself,
Yeah, that's what the important thing to me. That's what it's all about, man. Just to care about you. Even the whole reason we started, my idea came about to do this because we knew all these amazing, talented people that were doing what I felt was important things, writing important songs, and it was a way to talk to them and give other people the ability to realize that they're missing out on somebody.
Changing lives one song at a time.
Right, and that's important.
Yeah.
So, something I was going to bring up a little bit because I thought it was really interesting. Harp on the veteran thing for a minute. I saw that you had started doing like an effects pedal company.
I am very, very honored to say that I recently got endorsed by an effects pedal company called Fallen Raider Audio. It is actually owned and started by a Marine, a veteran, and who's got a pretty incredible story to how he got where he's at now. And they took me under their wing and endorsed me and sent me some of their gear, and I've plugged them in my pedal board and using them for my full band electric shows.
Yeah.
And just very, very honored to be part of that company and to help them. They have a mission to help veterans and people dealing with trauma and wounds and things. So anything I can do to further that, I'm thrilled.
That's just really cool that you have, it just shows at every level that, there's people who have been touched by this or served that are doing things,
right?
Back in society, doing all these music things. And, I thought it was just super rad that people were out making pedals and, pushing out.
They're all, his pedals are all military themed and Marine themed. It's all very, very cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, but I really dug that. I saw when you posted, I was like, dude, that is cool, man. Like, I had to check some of those out.
Yeah, and that's a company that they look to hire veterans that are in need of work, and they teach them very high-end soldering and high-end electronics work, and they try and give back, Fallen Raider Audio, try and give back by helping people. So
make sure everybody checks them out. Fallen Raider Audio. Yeah, that's super cool, man.
That's really awesome.
And they're just some darn good sounding gear. So
that's awesome. Well, I have a question. So when you came back, did you go back to California, or is that when you came to Texas?
Yeah, how did Scotti end up in Texas?
Yeah.
I'm wondering.
Ever since I was a kid, I always had this fascination with Texas.
Because we're awesome.
Because you're awesome. That's why I'm here, I wasn't born in Texas, but I got here as quick as I could. So I loved watching the Cowboys play football, and I was fascinated with the Astros uniforms and the Astrodome and all this cool stuff, and the Longhorns and all this. But I came back to Camp Pendleton, which is San Diego, Southern California, and I got out. My 10 years was up, and it was time to move to the next thing and start a family. And my girlfriend, who's now my wife of 20 years, we wanted to start a family, and I knew that if I stayed in, that it would be more tours, and I barely escaped with my life the last tour. So it's kind of time to move on and pass the torch to the younger guys with better knees and better backs.
And 10 years is a long time to serve. So
And we just knew we wanted to settle down and do a family and do somewhere where we could afford to live. And my wife is from Texas. She was born in Houston, and she had family here that helped us get our start. So
that's awesome.
We came here to settle down and slow down and start a family.
Which you did. You have lovely children.
I got great kids at home and a wife of 20 years and living in Texas, and it's just cool. And we've got goats too.
No way.
My daughter does FFA, so we've got goats.
Oh, wow. You must live out in the country, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, no, here's a funny story that Scotti doesn't know about yet.
Oh.
Our boys played each other in football this year.
Oh.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Funny.
His kids' team won only because the game was canceled because of weather. My kids' team was coming back. I was so mad because I didn't recognize you until the end of the game. I was like, "That's Scotti Fraser." So wait, his kid plays? Oh no, his kid is not beating my kid.
Yeah.
So we have a redo at some point. That's going to happen.
Okay.
But no, it was just crazy seeing you out in public. I was like, because when I realized the game was over and I saw you walk by, and I was like, I know those tattoos. I know that guy. Wait a minute, that's Scotti Fraser.
There's a guy with a veteran hat and full sleeve tattoos, all in black, standing out like a sore thumb.
Exactly.
I think I know that guy.
I think I played a show with
I
that
talked
dude.
to him, but his kid just beat my kid.
Exactly, I'm mad right now.
I really did just have this vision of you guys like bringing your kids to just like, I don't know, someplace and just going like making them go at it. Just
Put on your pads.
it's terrible.
and then they walk away best friends.
Yep, that's how it happens. That's how it happens. Yeah.
Pads are weird. Let's go.
Oh, goodness.
We go play some games. Yes.
Yeah.
Right. And
So
they're off
you-
to Xbox.
So you came back to Texas and you started a family. Took you a little while to kind of pick the guitar back up. So how long have you been grinding it out? Like how long have you been doing that here?
So I've played with a project or two through the years, and I got to a point really a couple years ago where I was really ready to really dive back into music. And I joined a local band on the south side of Houston and where I live, and had a really good time playing with those guys. And that just kind of drove me to want a little bit more in the way of, I want to tell my story. I wasn't the singer of that group. And while we had a great singer, she was amazing, I wanted to tell my story and my songs and do my thing. And you know, we parted amicably, and they're still doing their thing, and it's great.
I think that's where we first met you, right? Okay. Yeah. We saw you play.
And I wish them all the very best, and I enjoy following them. But for me, it was time to, to start telling my story, or should I say the story of the people I served with, our story through my songs.
So just a couple years ago.
It was a couple years ago.
Okay.
And I made a good friend that's an engineer at Sugar Hill Recording Studios.
Yeah.
And as COVID hit, I started going in and recording these songs and doing my first stab at the studio in Texas.
It's fun, isn't it?
It was really cool because I stood in the same room that the Rolling Stones and Willie Nelson
Right.
stood in, and Beyonce and Lil Wayne and all these rock stars, it was so cool.
Yeah.
Funny story about Sugar Hill while we're talking about it. I recorded, there a couple times. And the first time I was there, I was doing a Midnight to Dawn session with Steve Christensen, who's an amazing producer and audio engineer. And he's like, oh, let me get this mic. I was doing a background vocal and he wanted to use a specific mic. And he puts this mic, it's on a boom stand, it's, this whole thing. And, I sing into this mic and I kind of bumped it. And Steve's eyes got huge.
Some kind of very expensive Neumann or something.
And I was like, Steve, is that a problem? He goes, I'm just glad you didn't knock that over because that's Beyonce's microphone and we were borrowing it.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And I was just like, wait, she's singing this? Yeah. And I did the creepiest thing I've ever done in my life. I sniffed that microphone.
Yeah.
And I was like,
it smells heavenly.
I know.
It smells like lavender.
Right.
It smells like lavender and star power.
Right. Just beauty.
Just thinking of baseball.
Right. Good times.
If you know that scene.
I don't.
I'm just saying.
Y'all in your movies.
Oh, man.
But yeah, so that started the foray back into doing music. And then I started picking up a couple shows here and there and, started booking more stuff. And it started kind of taking off. And honestly, Brightwire, playing with y'all, that positive support and that reinforcement, like we like what you do and it's positive and it's good. And it's just kind of gave me more confidence that I can do this and take it farther. So,
well, cool.
I thank you guys.
Like I said, I thought you were like some badass, jerk the first time we saw you. So I was excited
real rock
when
star. He's too good for us.
I was just showing off.
And then, and then seeing you play your original stuff has been really fun to watch.
Cool. Well, thank you so much. I really
Have you
appreciate
been writing more as you are playing with, because I see you out playing with other veterans. Does that inspire you to write more when you work with them?
Yeah, I definitely am inspired by that. I'm definitely inspired by the guys that I served with in my infantry unit. That's a big inspiration for me on the subject matter. And I'm constantly writing. I'm in a phase right now with this last year where I'm in the studio finishing one song and maybe have 8 done towards this album. And I've got like about 8 in pieces in the works. So that's 3:00 in the morning. I'm piecing together all these songs, and it's a lot of lyrics on the laptop and recordings on home demo recordings. But I've got about enough. I'm almost done with the first album, and I've got enough for a second album.
Wow. That's awesome.
So I kind of am in this really creative phase, and I hope it lasts for a while.
Me too. I'm enjoying whatever's coming out of it.
I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's for all of us. It's for all of us.
Appreciate it, man.
Have you done any, you said you wanted to tour. Did you ever get to really tour like you wanted to? Did you get to visit any place really fun? Or you went to Canada, right?
Yeah. So I've gone from San Diego to Canada, mainly the West Coast when I lived out in California. And I really enjoyed that. A lot of it was living out of a van and a lot of top ramen.
Yeah.
Tons of top ramen. Yeah, it's like a common denominator in every touring band.
I do see you have a Nashville gig coming up.
And now I'm going to Nashville. So there's a benefit for a Marine veteran that needs some help. And they're putting together a big benefit for him in Nashville at a place called Heroes Den. And there's going to be a lot of veteran artists on that bill.
Oh, that's exciting.
And give a shout out to Romans Warrior Foundation out of Nashville. They're going to fly me out there and put me up and put me on the bill. And,
nice.
Go
awesome,
out there and try and bring some music, bring some hope, and serve with music,
Yeah, playing Nashville, Tennessee is pretty cool too, though.
It's going to be very, very cool.
Yeah.
So I'm thrilled about it.
It's another check off the bucket list, man. Got that one.
Go.
Keep them
Just
knocking.
keep getting on the, it's it. Get out there, make that first run, then it's, let me try this. I know you do San Antonio ever so often.
San Antonio, yeah. And looking at Dallas next. So did the House of Blues in Houston. Now I want to do the House of Blues in Dallas.
It's right on.
I have an opportunity to do that in the future. So
That House Blue show was
Very
great.
cool.
Yeah, I really thank you for coming.
Oh,
That
man,
was a
we're gonna
great,
miss it.
great night. There were so many friends and familiar faces.
I know it
in that
was, man.
crowd.
You had a lot of people there. So you're like, hey, I was like, oh, God, Scotty. Woo.
Seemed like every seat was full with a smiling face, and that's what it's all about. So it was a really good night.
It was, man.
That's awesome. Do you get nervous in front of a whole bunch of smiling faces, or are you pretty comfortable now?
I actually am one of those guys that likes to open up shows, because when I've done headlining, it's hard for me to sit still and wait that long. Like, I start getting the butterflies and I get excited and antsy and like, let's go now, let's play now.
Okay.
So I'm cool with, playing early in the night, and it's hard for me to sit still that long to wait to headline. So
Gotcha. Note to self, when we book shows with Scotty,
He's going to open every time.
Well, it is tough, man, because you do sit there and you're like, okay, all right,
Yeah.
I'm doing this. Like, you start
going over
watching other
lyrics in your
people.
mind, and
Well, yeah, it's just hard to enjoy the other band because you're thinking about your set,
Right.
And it's like,
okay, so I'm not the only one that does that.
No, not
I'm
at all.
running it,
yeah, totally.
cycling it through, getting your kind of your battle plan, if you will,
yeah.
ready. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, I just have to wait and see what curveball
Yeah.
Sam's going to throw at me and be like, oh, I didn't put that on the list. This lady, I've known her since I was in grade school. She loves this one song, and he's like, it's EAB. Okay,
Right.
let's do this.
We were doing that song for her. Get over it.
It's all right.
It's
we're
always my
good.
favorite because he doesn't realize how many of his songs start out with the same chord progression or
You're
sound
giving away
very
his
similar.
secrets.
Even when they're in
And-
even when they're in different keys and everything, or totally different things,
It's still.
I'm like, oh, the strumming pattern's so similar. It's like, whoa.
Yeah. He said something the other night. He was like, oh, wow, this is really similar. I was like, yeah, I never know whether you're doing this one or this one when you start.
Yeah,
I have no idea.
I think as guitarists, we all kind of have those signature licks.
Yeah.
And I think if it was something where it was like we were a full band, it would be, okay, this one's going to have this little run. This is this. So it's kind of harder when you're just like, here's.
Yeah, rhythm is, I know it's not your
Right. If
favorite.
there was a drummer to change the dynamic in that area. Yeah.
You know,
Well, and
you
Sam
want
really
songs-
likes to play lead. So
Well, I used
you would love
I
to
can't.
play lead.
It's like one of those things that
But-
came from playing with doing this, because you used to play sides for a lot of people, like
Right.
lap steel, bass,
Right.
guitar, and then being like the front person for Brightwire, doing all this stuff for 7 years now. It's like, if you haven't played lead guitar in like 6 years, and pick one up and it's like, like, oh man, I'm down to like the 2 licks that I remember how to play.
I think this guitar's out of tune or something. It's gotta be the
not me.
Right.
But it's like the whole, I always say, you go see John Prine live, you never know what song it is till they start singing, because it's like G, C, G.
Right.
And it's that songs, once you start going, you're there for
but
the
there's
story
something in
and the
that
melody.
something in that simplicity. And when I started this solo career of what I'm doing now, Scotti Fraser Band and Scotti Fraser's acoustic solo, I wanted to be the next Joe Bonamassa. I wanted to be like people that go, my gosh, that guy's a virtuoso guitarist.
Yeah.
But the studio that I'm working in now is called SLM Studios. And I have a master engineer named Kevin Bomar that's producing and engineering these 10 songs that'll be this album. And he's really kind of taught me about that simplicity. And there's something about just that, 3 chords and the truth. Keep them dancing, keep them feeling it.
Yeah.
What is it?
So I've tried to go back to that simplicity. Like we started off talking about the Ramones.
Yeah.
They wrote the same song for 25 albums and everybody loved it. And when I say the same song, I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I mean, they took those 4 chords and just made it great and rhythmic and catchy and singable. And
super driving.
I find that you guys do that. I find that Brightwire does that.
Oh,
all your songs are catchy and singable, and you can remember the words, and
Thanks.
So you have to cut this part
Yeah,
out. It's like, this is the promo part for Scotty. Brightwire's made like, yes. Still weird. We always still, I don't know if they're weird for you. Anytime anyone's complimentary, it's like, oh God.
it's good to be humble.
But we made a mistake. You didn't hear, we made a mistake on this song. That was a good set, but we made a mistake on the second song.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you try and decipher when people compliment you after the show. When they compliment me after the show, I'm like, are they being really honest, or did they just not catch all my mistakes?
They just don't know.
Yeah.
And even musicians, like, you're
You're your own worst critic.
we are horrible to ourselves, but man, I can't tell you how many times, like, I genuinely just love hearing people play, and I don't know, like, I wish it was that easy for me. Like when someone's like, oh, you played great. Like, no, I didn't. I really didn't. I know I didn't. Like the other night at Old Quarter, I dropped some notes I've never dropped before. And I'm just like, I'm an idiot. They're going to fire me from this band. They're going to just throw me out.
No, it's Kim's fault for having the throat issue. We were all nervous because of that.
That's true.
It's always Kim's fault.
We just defer to
It's
Kim.
definitely never Sam's fault.
We live in the patriarchy. It's your fault.
Man, this is a tough room.
Right?
It's always
It's a tough house
Kim.
I live in. No, I'm kidding.
Hey, and if you played the wrong note, it's the right note is only 1 note away, right?
Exactly.
right?
Just get right back
Just
in
do it twice and do like a rock face.
Exactly.
Like, man, he's really digging it. He's really feeling that.
Yeah, he's gonna bring that flat note up a little bit, right?
He's just bending it,
Just
right?
gotta
He's
bend it.
bending
Just gotta bend it.
Helps getting avant-garde.
Right. This is his jazz introspective period.
But I do think it's interesting what your producer said, because we have been talking about what serves the song.
Right.
Do we need to make it super fancy and add a bunch, like, does it need 3 guitar parts, or?
Yes.
Myself as a musician, I love to hear, skill and talent and creativity and all that. But the average listener, and my wife is a really good gauge. When I'm writing a song, I'll bring it to her when it's halfway done. What do you think of this? And if there's too many notes and too much stuff in it, as an average listener, which is the majority of your listening audience, is not a musician. If there's too much in it, sometimes she says it kind of loses the feel or the danceability, or it's too much that she can digest.
Right.
So I think it's okay to just
No, that's great.
do a Ramones song and just keep it simple and catchy, and
It's cool that, you have someone who's listens and gives you that good feedback of just like as a normal person, like, yeah, I just don't know. Or when you do it right, like, yeah, like that was perfect.
Right.
Like, I want to think of those good moments where you got your wife dancing in the kitchen and you're like,
Absolutely.
That has yet to happen to me in 22 years of a relationship, to have my wife dance in the kitchen to my
you
music.
don't ever play our albums?
No, I do.
Amber?
She just hates me that. No, I'm just kidding.
Mine will dance with me, but I usually got to start it.
Right.
Oh,
And it's usually got to be big band swing or Patsy Cline or
There you
Glenn
go.
Miller or something.
Amber will dance like it's got to be a 2-step. So if we put on a 2-step or maybe a waltz, I'm just saying.
okay. I wrote a waltz.
We
can
did
do
write a
that.
waltz, you know.
Yeah,
so.
but your daughter dances to everything, so
Dude, Livy just
that makes up.
Livy's
for
just
it.
living her best life no matter what.
She is.
You know, one day she's gonna know what the lyrics to "Tears in the Sunshine" are saying, and it's gonna be an awkward conversation
She's
between
gonna be
daddy
so
and daughter.
confused.
Like, be like, "I'm sorry, honey."
That's what people. That's always funny about the kids' songs. Like the ex-wife used to always be like, "I love Lucille," and I'd say, "You picked a fine time," and it's like she's like, "Then I got old enough to know the lyrics." I was like, "These are horrible."
Or my personal favorite song, "Fancy" by Miss Reba McEntire,
Right.
It's a good
one
song.
that Kim's about to start covering. We heard.
Nope.
Yeah,
the plan.
I actually got the chord sheet and everything. Start working.
They're sitting
it out.
on our kitchen counter.
This is going to
Cool.
happen.
Cool.
It's not
But that song is not a very positive song.
No.
either.
It is.
Yeah, Fancy had a little rough go there.
Fancy has like a very nice house in New Orleans right now,
True.
and
Sorry.
gobble a goose or two to get there. It's fine.
Wow.
Money spins
That's not
either way.
Wow.
that is not staying in the pocket.
That's okay. Good.
Or maybe it will. I don't want to take away from Sky Shore with a bunch of dumb shit I'm saying.
Right.
But all right, man. Well, thank you for coming by, Scotty, man. What's your website?
My website is scottifraser.com.
Okay.
And Scotti is spelled SCOTTI, Fraser FRASER.com. And that'll have all the content, upcoming shows, photos, the official music videos, and links to Spotify and streaming services.
We'll put all that in the description as well, but just wanted to make sure.
Please, yeah, thank you.
Everybody-
People know where to find your music.
All of my music is on all streaming platforms,
Awesome.
all the streaming services, and everything
Thank
from
you
Amazon.
for taking the time to hang with us, man.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
And chances are when they see you in the future, they'll see us too. So
Yeah, well, I like to say I'm only as good as the company I keep, so I think I'm a pretty good guy tonight. So hang with y'all.
goes both ways.
Appreciate it.
So thank you, sir.
Appreciate you guys very, very much. Thank you.
All right. Bye, everybody.
All right, y'all. Thank y'all once again for listening to another episode of Music in the Minor League. As we said at the beginning, if you like what you heard, please share the podcast with a friend. It is and will always be the best way for us to get new listeners and spread the word on all these fine artists we're talking to. If you enjoyed the band being featured, go follow them everywhere you can online. Like we said at the end, ScottiFraser.com. Check them out on Spotify. Follow them there. Any of your streaming networks. It really does help grow the list of places that you get to play as an artist when you do that. Today we're going to close it out with the song that was our bumper music and a song that we just really dig called Tattoos and Battle Scars. We'll see you next time. Be safe out there.
There's names on my arm, a tattoo of a broken heart, and the wounds from afar that leave these battle scars. There's a story in my skin that I never will forget. Hey, it's who we are. Tattoos and battle scars. Hey, it's who we are. Tattoos and battle scars. Paid for in blood from battles that we won. Permanent in black for the ones that didn't make it back. There's a story in my tattoos and battle scars. Hey, it's who we are. Tattoos and battle scars. And I've heard them say, sometimes good things come from pain. We all got scars when we get back. Some you see, some you can't. Hey, it's who we are. Tattoos and battle scars. Hey, it's who we are. Tattoos and battle scars. Hey, it's who we are. Tattoos and battle scars.